Today it is my pleasure to welcome to Shepherd's Grove and the Hour of Power Crystal Hansen. Crystal is married to the popular author Mark Victor Hansen, who we interviewed last week, who's here today. Hi, Mark. Good to see you. And he was speaking to us, of course, about his world-renowned Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. Crystal has worked alongside Mark in the creation of a children's version of Chicken Soup, which is cool because actually today we're talking about kids. She's a certified life coach and helped thousands of people, curing them of messy thinking, which each one of us has at our, at one time or another in our lives. And this messy thinking lies in everyone's subconscious and in their thought process. Crystal, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's give her a hand and welcome her.
Really great to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
I really appreciate it.
What is messy thinking?
So what happens is we all, from the time we take our very first breath, Bobby, we're taking in all of these experiences and events that happen in our life, and our brains in their efficiency record all of these experiences, right? We make perceptions, and a lot of times those perceptions have inaccuracies or distortions, or we delete information. But what happens is we set up our own neural network, like a filtration system. So we start to filter the rest of our life by those programs that have been put in our minds or we've accepted, just things that happen, people around us. Everyone's well-meaning, but stuff happens, right?
Sure,
and so we build these programs sometimes that I call messy thinking, because we look around at our lives and say, this isn't working. I don't feel like I can have success in my marriage or success in my relationships with my kids or success in my job. My career hasn't worked out. And we just keep sabotaging ourselves and wondering why. That's when we need to get to the bottom of it. And our subconscious mind is like a storage tank. It holds all these programs. And until we intervene deliberately, nothing really changes.
So messy thinking, it would be something like if I said, I'm not good enough to do that, or if I said something like, I'm not going to tell a person that I'm frustrated with them, or I'm not going to speak out against it. That's the kind of...
Right, because we have fears that we're not worthy, fears of rejection, fears that we're wrong, so many fears. I mean, most of our problems in life are fear-based. And we all know that fear is really the enemy because it keeps us from expressing all that we were meant to be. I mean, we each have an important purpose in this life. Each person has a unique signature that they are here to do. And if our messy thinking is always getting in our own way, how can we ever become that full expression that God wanted us to be, right?
Yeah. What's the most common thing that you see people kind of, you talk about messy thinking, you sit with people, you're coaching them all the time. What's like the most popular messy thought, I guess, would be it?
You know what it is? I'm not worthy. Like, I'm not good enough to manage this company, or I'm not lovable. So we do all kinds of things, all kinds of behaviors around this underlying thought that I'm not lovable, so I have to take abuse because otherwise I'll lose this love, or I'll have to settle for less, otherwise I'll lose this love. And it really keeps us from God, from being able to really download God, because this messy thinking that we have takes up a lot of space and a lot of energy in our minds and our hearts and our day. And so the work that I do is all about clearing ourselves of all this noise and all this garbage and all this stuff that was put inside of us for whatever reason from we were tiny. That life just happens, right?
Right. Yeah.
The more we can clear ourselves, the more we can say, I like to say, make me an empty vessel for God to fill me, because then we get the pure love, the pure intellect, the pure wisdom of God driving us, right? When we can get rid ourselves of all of those other things.
It's interesting listening to you, I mean, especially as a pastor, I almost hear you saying, like, it's really hard to overcome. I mean, you hear psychologists and stuff talk about the things you're talking about. What I hear you kind of saying is, like, faith is a really important part of overcoming. I mean, Kierkegaard, it was huge for him, but faith is a really important part of overcoming these subconscious things, these fears, this messy thinking and all that.
Absolutely. Faith is everything. I mean, you have to know, people put too much power in what happens in this life, instead of putting the power in God and having that faith that you can absolutely overcome everything. You can shift anything. I mean, addictions. I've had people who have literally gotten over addictions. I had a woman who came to me who severely abused her whole life. She woke up every day wanting to die. feeling like she had no right to live, like she shouldn't be alive. Her mother had, was mentally ill, left her when she was 12, then her dad abandoned her. She was passed around to family members like a Cinderella role. And she said, I literally woke up every day thinking I had no right to live, I should just die. And she wrote me an email after 4 sessions, and she said, I can honestly say I am totally free of the crushing depression I've experienced my entire life. And I just thank God. Yeah, we don't have to carry any of this stuff. That's my message to people. I see people as these shining, beautiful expressions of God, and it's kind of like we just need to scrub off all that junk that we've all taken on so we can shine, let our light shine the way they're supposed to.
You're really writing a lot now about like weight loss and personal health and things like that. And I think a lot of people would ask, well, what does weight loss have to do with God or with faith or with your mind or with these things? Isn't it just like eat better? And how do you respond to something like that?
Well, it's interesting because we have to really recognize that one of our greatest gifts is this body temple we were given. I mean, if we don't keep this body temple healthy, how will we ever become the greatest expression? If we're stuck in sickness.
I'm going to interject there because I know a lot of people, when you say body temple, like a lot of people think like that sounds kind of weird, but really that's a biblical phrase. I mean, that's what Corinthians says, that we're God's temple, right?
Yep.
I mean,
what is it, Corinthians 6?
Yeah.
Your body is your temple, and how else? Your spirit is here to do your work, do your expression, become who all you're supposed to be. How can you do that when you're fighting disease and illness? And it's all preventable. But what I found is, we're spending $65 billion a year on weight loss, and people are heavier and sicker than ever. And it goes back to that mind thing, the subconscious thing. People are very disconnected from, their bodies. A lot of people just shove food mindlessly in, and poor quality food. And it's really about connecting and honoring this gift of our bodies. I think it's very, very important. It's something we need to pay attention to, and I just feel like the way people are doing it, I could see a breakdown, because most people who came to me for weight loss were really somewhere in their mind expecting the fat person to come out again. So they would just do this roller coaster dieting, which takes a lot of energy and depression, and there's a lot of emotional residue, and there's a way, just like every other problem, to free yourself from that.
There's a lot of people probably watching on television or in the audience today who are struggling with weight or some of these different things, and they're looking at you right now and they're hating you. You're pretty, you're skinny, and like, I mean, what do you say though? I mean, isn't there a part of this? There's kind of a cycle to it, isn't it? I mean, like you feel overweight, and you talk yourself down, and then you see somebody else talking about weight loss, and like.
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
What do you say to someone like that?
First of all, I want to say that, we're not all supposed to look exactly alike. We're all different body type styles. So my program's called Skinny Life, and it's the real skinny on healthy, young, and fit. And that's what it is, the bottom line truth. Because we're not all supposed to be the same size, but what we're supposed to do is become aware of how to take the best care of our body. And it all starts with the mind, that mental programming, like the awareness, what foods do what in my body, so that it can have health and fit and longevity, so I can really feel good to do the work that I'm doing.
Awesome. Well, I hope that people check out what you're doing, because I know that what you're doing is holistic. It's not just about losing weight and looking better or something like that. It really is it's a part of the spiritual journey and the soul, and I think what you're doing is really great. I want to encourage our viewers to really check out some of the things that you're talking about. I think it's a big help. And there's millions of people listening around the world.
Right.
If you had just like one thing to say to them, what would that one thing be?
I would say that you have so much power inside of you, and so don't let the events that have happened in your life shut you down and control your life. You can go into that quiet space. It doesn't take really any help other than just asking God to be present, but we live in a noisy world, so go into that quiet space and pray, but then listen. That's what prayer, we talk, and meditation, we listen. Listen to what God's telling you. Recognize some of that subconscious programming that's shutting you down, and saying, I'm ready to be free of that. Free me of that, empty me, I'm ready to empty myself and do the work that I was made to do. Everyone has that power inside of them. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to carry those things.
Right. Her name is Crystal Hansen. You can get her book on our website or online. And I really want to encourage you guys to check out some of her things. And Crystal, we're just so thankful. And you're going to be around to sign books and meet everybody afterwards. So that's great.
So
Let's give her a hand and
that.
thank her. Thank you, Crystal, so much.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
All the
Great.
best. We so appreciate you.